All right, Elijah. So my first question for you, yesterday you had the protest in Boston. You had a lot of people come. Like, what was like the what was like your thoughts on what happened yesterday and how this helps with the movement against Eversource?
Well, I will say there wasn't as many people as I would have liked to have been. And that's my own fault because I saw the DPU announcement or a news channel announcement in regards to that vote happening tomorrow. I didn't know about it previously. And so, that was a moment of urgency. And so, within, there was 24 hours to go. And I said, all right, we're going to do a protest, So, a lot of people didn't have time to, get off of work and et cetera. But like I said, those who could make it made it. We had, Jeff Deal there, which, like I said, is somebody that one of our supporters reached out to see if he was available, and he just happened to be, and he came out in support of us as well, which was great. But I will say this, right? Given the fact that we didn't have, a magnanimous amount of people there, and that the DPU, I actually called the DPU while I was there because I was trying to get in the building. I was trying to fill out one of those complaint forms live and in person inside the building, right, symbolically and et cetera, and hand it in and whatever. But so they told me that that wasn't possible, that I couldn't get up there to the third floor. So I says, all right. I spoke to a gentleman on the phone that works there at the DPU, and he informed me that because of me, he was home. And I said, what do you mean? He said, well, because of you, they told us all to stay home and work from home and work remote. For some reason, got the impression that, we were going to try to get in the building and, which was, you know, couldn't be farther from the truth. We're very democratic and, we use democratic channels, but it was interesting to see that even a small collective can elicit that type of reaction from the DPU, a governing body, in the heart of Boston, and, feel the pressure enough to later on, give a $500 million discount to their initial budget plan. And I'm not, taking any credit for that, but I do know that public pressure plays a big part of that. But what I will say is that if they were afraid enough to stay home, given their perception of our level of anger and anxiety towards, the situation, then they could never justify passing anything close to 5 billion, because public interest should be at the forefront of all of their decisions. So that's the part that's interesting. So, when this comes down and, there are eventual court trials and people are, put under oath and questions are asked, the question will come up is to whether, you knew that the public didn't want this. And that's why you told your people to stay home. So knowing that and having public interest be at the forefront of your decisions, or at least it should be, why did you still choose to pass such a magnanimous amount without, at least extending the deadline so that there could be further inquiry or, public inquisition or more time for public commentary? Where is the pressure coming from? And where is your justification? And where do your loyalties lie?
Right. And going off of that, you mentioned the DPU, Eversource, taking action. Like, what's like next? Like, what's the next steps for the group? And ultimately, what's going to need to happen in order to really make more meaningful change?
Well, it seems like we're behind the ball as far as getting the announcements on these upcoming events, right? As far as between the legislature and, the DPU and whatever other governing bodies want to throw at us, in regards to different taxes and how they sneak things in for infrastructure and et cetera. We do know that we have, S 2967, which passed. That's going to hit our bills around April, May. We do know that they have Eversource petition for a recoupling adjustment to their fee. They're going to increase the recoupling fee by about 50%. The deadline for that petition is March 26th. So we're going to be, adamant about that. But I'm sure the legislature has a bunch of, bills on their itinerary that they're going to be going through. I know there's a lot of things that we don't know about. So we're going to have more of a targeted approach as far as getting to know these events before they actually happen, so that we can prepare and form coalitions and protests and public outcry to stopping those. So that's one step, right? But of course, the other avenue is we're going to have to go with some court cases. There's going to be some court cases filed, against the DPU, against the legislature, against Maura Healey, against the Attorney General for, dereliction of duty, and amongst many other things, because, for the most part, this has been going on for 5 weeks now. And, 4 weeks in, the Attorney General finally decides to issue a letter that I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And it's a lot of lip service and nobody doing anything. And under the shadow of night, right, while everybody's working on a Friday, they come up with this $5 billion. And I know, I get it. They didn't just come up with it now. We just found out about it. But, if anything, if the DPU is saying, oh, we're going to look into this, is Maura Healey saying, oh, I'm going to look into this, if the Attorney General is saying, oh, I'm going to look into this, you would think they would pause anything that could affect citizens in regards to a rate hike while they reevaluate and at least do an economic threshold study. Like the population is telling you, we cannot take it. We cannot take it. And they're sitting there. I mean, $5 billion, we've been desensitized with all these trillions and billions that they throw around left and right. But that's a lot of money. That's an insane amount of money. Just to reflect the whole budget for for Massachusetts for 2026 H1 that Maura Healey snuck some more things in. That's another thing for us to watch. That's $60 billion. So relatively speaking, that's that's almost 10%. I'm sorry, yeah, almost 10% of the entire budget as far as $5 billion. So I mean, there are some things that are sliding under the radar, and it's because, well, we're working people. And we have to work and take care of our children and maintain our cars and maintain our homes and mow our lawns and shovel. And so, the working class citizen doesn't have time to know all these things, and they don't have time to really participate. So, at some point, I feel like we need people to advocate for the people. And wouldn't you know, that's supposed to be politicians. But guess what? There wasn't one Massachusetts current standing legislator there yesterday while they're going to pass this. Even the people who claim to be staunch adversaries of such bills and mass save and, the massive misrepresentation of funds, they weren't there either. So, it seems like the citizens have to take this into their own hands. And so, yeah, if you can't already tell, we have a lot on our plate. It seems we've been buried in red tape, and we're breaking free of these chains, one at a time. So, beyond the court cases, the hyper vigilance in regards to finding out, some more things and growing our group, of course, because we understand that the bigger we are, the more power we have, as an organization, as a conglomerate of citizens. So it's onwards and forwards, and we will not relent. And we're going to make sure that these people are going to be held accountable, because for quite some time, they've been allowed to skate free without any accountability, and that needs to change.
So with all that being said, I know with the next few months, it's going to be big, and, this plan coming out with the $5 billion, and, what's it going to take for, your group and also people of Massachusetts at large to really feel like, hey, we got a handle on this. We can live our lives. We can live our lives without like fear of like raising rate hikes. Like what's it going to take in order for meaningful change to be made?
Well, at the end of the day, the first thing is a forensic audit of all those mechanisms, including Mass Save, Eversource and their relationship with the DPU, the rate books that they issue that are about 900 pages long. You literally have to have, a PhD to understand, the verbiage in them. But we're going to meander our way through, and we'll figure it out. Where there's a will, there's a way. And so, auditing the entire system and their massive misspending and misrepresentation of funds is going to be number one, because through the auditing, we're going to find a lot of things in there in regards to, and I will say that, I've had some phone calls from people who are, not ready to speak on air and on the record, of people that work within, Mass Save and some of these governing bodies that, they're, attesting that there is massive misspending, and there are collusion. There is collusion going on, and there are relationships between contractors and government entities, and there are kickbacks. And so there are these things that are coming to light. And so I also want to use this broadcast to say, hey, listen, if you're a government entity and, you're in a situation where you're aware that of some massive misrepresentation of funds that is occurring with Mass Save or any of these governing bodies that are spending tax dollars in places they shouldn't be, reach out to me, Elijah, at Citizens Against Eversource, the Facebook group. I will not divulge your name, just like I didn't divulge the people's name that have come to me so far. We're currently building a case now. Some of those people will not speak on record. Some of the people are willing to speak as long as we block out their voices or block out their faces. But so different people are, comfortable with, different levels of, public view and being in the public eye. And so, we're going to respect that. But I find that, if we can get together a body of people, we're going to have a great chance of getting a court to force the opening of those books via an audit and demand an audit, and ideally an emergency injunction to pause a lot of these programs, pause a lot of these rate hikes, reverse them to the pre-November 1st level until we can find out, the origin of these, if they were done in the interest of the people, if there was any corruption, through the deliberation process, corruption within the relationships between Eversource and or any of the other six, Massachusetts energy entities. And it has to be done because it is blatant that no matter how much money we give these governing bodies, they're always defunct, they're always running out of money, and nothing gets better. And the people are screaming as things get worse. So the money's going somewhere. It's not going to help us. So the question is, where is it going? And even better, why is Maura Healey, the Attorney General, and the legislature afraid of allowing ballot question one, the audit of the legislature, to be executed to the full extent that it was supposed to be? The legislature just voted to ban and not allow us, the people who voted, for a ballot initiative, to not have the audit done. And to me, that's ludicrous because you're telling a Democratic population that they have means to, go against their government when there is potential signs of treason or anything of that nature, or we have the ability to have some oversight into how our money is spent. And then we vote on it, 72% of the vote, thousands and thousands and thousands of citizens. And now they're essentially telling them, hey, guess what? Your voice does not matter. There is nothing you can do to stop us. We're going to spend your money frivolously and however we want. And, and what are you going to do? And so, when you egg a population on like that, you're traversing into dangerous territory. You have a people that's desperate, that's destitute, that's, has anger and anxiety, and you're egging them on, and Massachusetts has a really big population. So I want to, caution them before they egg us on with their antics, and their misbehavior and, their lack of legislative responsibility when it comes to honoring the people. They need to be very careful. They need to be very careful.
Great. And Elijah, is there anything else you'd like to add?
Well, like I said, for anybody out there that's watching, I just want you guys to know that, we have power as citizens. They've, tried to make us forget that we control the cards, that we are the ones that employ them. And they've done a really good job with their distractions and their divisiveness. And our movement is not just about Eversource, but more especially it's about alerting the people to their divisive tactics. They got us white versus black, red versus brown, yellow versus green, blue versus red, Republican versus, liberal, you name it, woman versus man, and it just goes on and on and on. And so we're so busy and we're so easily emotionally triggered by all these psychological mechanisms that they employ within our media and within, different modes of social medias and et cetera, that we've forgotten that we control the cards. And if we were to put those ideological differences aside and for once understand that it's us versus them, because ultimately they're the ones that are fleecing America. They're the ones that are fleecing their constituents. They're the ones that are impoverishing us, not your neighbor across the street that may have a different political party sign out on his lawn. He hasn't done anything to you but support a different candidate. And maybe he has some different ideological views, but guess what? When it comes to finances, that's the difference between you having financial freedom for you, your family, your children, your loved ones, and not having that, and not having that freedom, because freedom is tied to money, unfortunately. And when they sequester that from you, you have no freedom. And so wake up to the fact that you are in a prison and only you can break yourself out. And it's going to take you joining hands with your fellow inmates to make it happen. But anybody can do it. I mean, look at me. I'm just a simple working class man, just, started a little group and trying to make a difference. So get out there, because before you know it, at the blink of an eye, there will be nothing left for the future generations to come. And you'll look back and wonder how we got here. And so now is the time to act. and now is the time to be proactive and make some moves that's going to make them think twice about messing with us ever again.